Okay, I did my test glue up here. In other words, I got all the clamps in place, and I saw that all of the joints closed, and I made some cauls here. That's the wooden parts, and I'm using those to clamp it flat to keep it from moving around. So this looks like it's going to work great. Now, should you do a test, a dry clamping? Yes, you should. Make sure you know which clamp goes where they're going to go. Make sure the clamps are working well. Make sure above all else, make sure that the joints close and everything meets your approval. So I've done that. Now I'm going to take it apart. All right, here's what I'm doing. I want to put pressure this way, but I also want to clamp them down flat. So I've got these cauls made with some really good plywood, and I'm going to clamp them down. See what our joints look like. That's pretty good. All right. And these will hold everything nice and flat. Now, I'm not using biscuits, and I'm not using dominoes or dowels in the joints. This is kind of a small table, and it's a small panel as the tabletop. So if you can glue it up flat, and also keep in mind, a lot of times you're going to end up, after you mill up your lumber, no matter what precautions you take, you might end up with a little bit of movement that's not friendly to being flat. Well, so what I tried to do there is, if it's for a tabletop, it's going to be pulled down flat. The cleats on those 4 cleats on the bottom are going to help hold everything flat when you put a screw in it. So you have something working on your side there. So you have to kind of make a judgment as to how much variance you can take with movement in those boards. But right now, this is nice and flat all the way across, minus a little bit of sanding. I think it's good. What I've done is I made a pattern. I wanted a top that was somewhere around 22 inches. And to get that, I set my pedestal, the center column, up and did some alignment on some of these centering lines that I made. Then what I wanted to do is make sure that I had enough room. I wanted to have the top stick out a little more on the corners than my legs, and I wanted to be able to get at least 1 screw in each of these supports for the top. So I'll have 4 screws all the way around to hold it down. And I think that, by golly, that's going to be just a nice little table, and it's going to work out real well. Now, what I need to do is to cut this out. At this point, you could make the table round. take a compass or a string and go from the center. You could make it a round table. You could make it square if you'd like. But I chose to make it neither round or square, but to have these nice little corners here. Give it something kind of a special look. Always try to do that with your project. Do something that's kind of special. But we'll have some sculpting to do when we get all of the legs in place. First, we're going to take this to the bandsaw and we're going to cut out this top. Well, it's easier to cut this if you get some sort of outfeed support, or in this case, kind of a side feed, something to help you control it, because you don't want to fight the tabletop through the bandsaw. And you want to cut close, but you can always sand and plane and do some things to end up taking away the line. So don't try to be a hero. Don't try to cut it perfectly. You could do this with a good jigsaw. Good jigsaw is a wonderful thing to have. Then you can put it on a table and have part of it hanging off and cut away the whatever is not going to be the tabletop. There are a lot of ways to do it. Just find the best way for you and the equipment that you have. Well, here goes. And looking at this now, I need to make sure that the top is nice and flat, and I need to make sure that I've contoured it to the lines. And also, I've got a big knot over here that I've got to do something with, which is a lesson all by itself. So first of all, let's get the glue off, and then we'll worry about the shape. We'll fill the knot. We'll see what we have. And there are always a lot of compromises, because wood is wood. It was just a tree till someone came along and decided to make a log out of it and then make a table out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in 1 5/8 inches from the edge that I've defined, and I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to go around the table and do that in a couple of places so that I can have a little bit of a check and a balance as to where I am as I drag this line around the table. Now, the purpose here is I don't want this just to be a big square edge here. What I want to do is I want to chamfer it a bit or bevel it so that I've got a a thinner top out on the edge, and it looks, it'll just look nice and light. And I try to do this probably with most of my tables, so that there we go. There's my little point right there, so I'll know that I'm where I need to be. That knot's messing me up just a little bit. I'll get out here. Let's turn it around. And draw my line. Right now the tabletop is 3/4 of an inch thick. All right, so if I come up 1/4 of an inch to there, and I draw that line all the way around, and I take this off and bevel it down to there, I think we're going to have a great looking tabletop. You know, it kind of gets down to the art project. And that could separate you from other woodworkers if you'll take the chance. Use your eye. Now we've got a situation right here where the board kind of ran out, and I had in mind that when I beveled the bottom here, that would take care of a lot of that. You got to know where your pieces are going to be, what you're looking for and what you're trying to achieve. And at some point you just have to kind of trust your eye and your hand. That's what it comes down to. Trust your eye and your hand. All right, we're heading around the corner here, past the pesky knot. Now a lot of the knot is going to go away, but we'll still have to deal with it. And there we go. All right, so we're going to bevel this. Now, how do we do that? There are a number of things we can do. We can grind it away, which is a pretty fast way of doing it. We can grind it away. We can take a plane to it, a hand plane, and we can plane it with the grain and a cross grain, and you can do it the hand tool way, but you got to pick a way. I'll probably do several different things, and we'll see how it turns out. I like to use a grinder for something like this. The Festool 115 grinder is something I've used for years. In fact, I've got like 4 of them. But it seems that it has been discontinued and there needs to be a replacement. I did find a replacement, and I think it's a pretty good alternative. Although I still like using this with 24 grit Saphir paper, S-A-P-H-I-R. It's like rocks stuck to a piece of paper. It does a wonderful job for shaping, and this has good dust pickup. Not great, but good. It keeps you from choking to death. You can use this little shroud here and kind of turn it around and catch some of that dust. So it's a good tool for being able to do something like this, because this is flat and I want to flatten this at an angle. And so I've gone all the way around, and as you saw, I marked my boundary lines. I've got a line here about 1/4 of an inch down and 1 5/8 in from the edge. I've got a line, and I've marked it in red there so I can see where I've worked, see where I need to work, and it's a way to take my plan and put it on the board. So let's get started. I'm going to try to keep my hands in, or keep my elbows in, kind of keep them locked a bit. I want to use my body to get it to move, and instead of out here with my hands just kind of loosey-goosey. First thing I do is put a flat here, and the flat is not the finished angle, but it helps me set a trend, and I want to get down to my red line at 1/4 of an inch, and then I can come back and so I'm going to first, I've got it down there already. See how it moves kind of fast. Now, what I want to do is get up a little higher. I want to work this ridge right here, right along that ridge. If I work that ridge and flatten it back, I'm slowly moving toward my boundary line that's 1 5/8 in. Boundary line can be where you want it. And now I'm also going to come back here, and I'm going to mark where I've been, and I don't want to take any more of this right on the edge away right now. So that'll help me know where I need to go and know where I've been. So let's work this. The sculptor has to use their fingers to feel and look for lumps and things that need to be removed, and you have to keep your lines and just work at it and have fun. This is the part of the project that I enjoy the most. All right, so what you can do here is, after you flatten this with the grinder, you can do a great job of shaping it and continuing to flatten it with a block plane, or this is a little smooth plane here, low angle smooth plane. You got to watch the grain, because the grain can change on you. Like right here it's going that way, so I need to move around to the other side and see if I can catch that. You just have to really watch that. And you can also use a spoke shave. The spoke shave here, right here is a good place I can use that to do my rounding over. Of course, you could use a router bit, a rounding over bit, if you'd like. There are a lot of choices. I prefer to have a round over that changes. In other words, it's going to be a little more here, a little less as it gets to the corner, kind of tapers into the corner. I can control all that with a spoke shave or a rasp. Find out what works best for you and then enjoy it. And I've got a scraper here. It's going to allow me to kind of fine tune that edge. You know, hand tools and hand tool skills put you in control. And whatever you do, you want to be in control, especially of your woodworking. Well, I want to work on this, and I'll show it to you later. All right, now, this tabletop has got a couple of things that need some attention, just like everything in life. It all needs a little bit of attention. Now, I'm going to use this new Ultimate Scraper from StewMac, and I'm going to take down any little deviations between, or in the transitions between one board and another. It's just great for that. It's not great if you go the wrong way. So we're just going to try to go this way for everything. Look at that. That's so nice. Yeah. That'll make you smile. All right, so that joint is coming together. Have some situations right in here where it just been kind of bombarded with things bumping into it. You know, you can't beat a good tool. Well, I'm going to keep working here, and pretty soon we're going to have this all ready to be that beautiful tabletop on that really exquisite sculptured pedestal.